The year was 2089, and humanity had established 3 permanent research stations on the lunar surface. Dr. Marcus Webb, a xenoarchaeologist from the Lunar Base 7 research facility, was conducting routine mineral surveys in the Sea of Tranquility when his scanner detected something impossible. Buried beneath 40 meters of lunar regolith lay a metallic structure unlike anything in human records. The object measured roughly 200 meters in length, its surface composed of an unknown alloy that seemed to absorb and reflect light in ways that hurt the eyes to observe directly. Webb contacted his team immediately. Within hours, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the base's chief scientist, and Tom Bailey, their military liaison, had joined him at the site. They worked in shifts for 3 days, carefully excavating around the mysterious craft. The ship's design defied conventional understanding of physics. Its hull curved in impossible angles, creating surfaces that appeared to fold in on themselves. No visible engines, weapons, or entry points could be found despite thorough examination with every scanning device available. On the 3rd day, something changed. As Rodriguez ran her hands along what appeared to be a seamless section of hull, the metal began to warm beneath her gloves. A section approximately 3 meters wide suddenly became transparent, revealing an interior filled with soft blue light. The 3 humans exchanged glances through their helmet visors. This was first contact protocol territory, but they were scientists, not diplomats. Still, the discovery was too significant to ignore. They entered the ship. The interior was vast, far larger than the exterior dimensions should have allowed. Corridors stretched in directions that seemed to violate 3-dimensional space. The walls pulsed with gentle bioluminescence, and the air inside registered as perfectly breathable on their instrument's dot at the ship's center. They found what could only be described as a command center. Crystalline structures rose from the floor like frozen trees, each one humming with energy. In the middle of the room sat a single chair, sized for a being roughly twice human height. Bailey, ever the military man, kept his weapon ready while Webb and Rodriguez examined the strange technology. None of them noticed the almost imperceptible vibration that had begun to emanate from the ship's core dot as Rodriguez approached the central chair. Symbols began to appear in the air around it. They shifted and flowed like living things, occasionally forming patterns that seemed almost familiar before dissolving again. "Are you getting this recorded?" Webb whispered into his comm unit. Before Rodriguez could answer, the symbols suddenly coalesced into clear, readable English text. "Welcome, inheritors. We have waited long for your arrival." The 3 humans froze. The text hung in the air for several moments before new words appeared. "Your species shows promise. The trials begin now." Suddenly, the ship's interior changed. The walls became transparent, revealing the lunar surface outside, but something was wrong. Where Lunar Base 7 should have been visible in the distance, they saw only empty moonscape. "Base 7, this is Rodriguez. Do you copy?" She spoke into her comm unit, but received only static in response. Webb checked his chronometer and discovered something impossible. According to the display, they had been inside the ship for 6 hours, though it felt like 30 minutes at most. Bailey moved to the transparent wall and peered out at the lunar surface. "Look at the Earth," he said quietly. The 3 humans turned their attention to their home planet, hanging in the star-filled sky above them. But it wasn't the Earth they remembered. The continents were arranged differently, and instead of one moon, 3 celestial bodies orbited the blue world. "This isn't our Earth," Rodriguez said, her voice barely a whisper. New text appeared in the air. "Correct. This is Earth as it exists in the timeline you have now entered. Your species has been selected for evaluation. Prove your worth, and you may return home. Fail and remain here forever." The ship began to move, though none of them felt any acceleration. Through the transparent walls, they watched the lunar surface fall away beneath them as they rose into space. Their destination became clear as they approached one of the 3 moons orbiting this strange Earth. On its surface, vast structures sprawled across continents, clearly of non-human origin. Cities of impossible architecture stretched to the horizon, and in the space between them, they could see movement of other ships, other beings. Webb realized they were about to make contact, not just with one alien species, but with what appeared to be an entire galactic community. "What kind of trial do you think they mean?" Bailey asked. Before anyone could answer, their ship began its descent toward the alien world, and the real adventure was about to begin. The ship settled onto a landing platform that materialized beneath it moments before touchdown. As the 3 humans peered through the transparent walls, they saw beings emerging from nearby structures to observe their arrival. The aliens varied dramatically in appearance. Some walked on multiple legs like giant insects. Others floated in transparent spheres filled with glowing gas. And still others appeared to be living geometric shapes that changed form as they moved. "Fascinating," Webb murmured, his scientific mind racing. "This appears to be some kind of spaceport or diplomatic center." The text appeared again in the air before them. "You will now undergo the first trial. Each species that joins the Galactic collective must demonstrate 3 essential qualities: intelligence, compassion, and courage. Your performance will determine humanity's fate." A section of the ship's floor began to glow, and suddenly the 3 humans found themselves standing in what appeared to be a vast arena. Thousands of alien beings occupied tiered seating around them, their attention focused on the small group of humans at the center. Rodriguez noticed that her equipment had changed. Instead of her scientific instruments, she now carried a small device that displayed symbols and numbers she didn't recognize. Webb and Bailey had similar devices. A new voice spoke, not in text this time, but directly into their minds. "The first trial tests intelligence. Before you are 3 problems that have challenged species across the galaxy. Solve them correctly and proceed. Fail, and your species is deemed unworthy." 3 crystalline structures rose from the arena floor, each one presenting a different puzzle. The first showed a complex mathematical equation using symbols that shifted and changed as they watched. The second displayed what appeared to be a 3-dimensional maze with no obvious entrance or exit. The third presented a series of musical tones that played in patterns they couldn't quite understand. Webb approached the mathematical puzzle while Rodriguez examined the maze. Bailey, despite having no scientific training, was drawn to the musical pattern. "Wait," Webb said after several minutes of study. "These symbols aren't just changing randomly. They're responding to my presence, adapting to my thought processes." He began working with the equation, and the symbols stabilized into familiar mathematical notation. The problem was complex, but solvable, a multidimensional calculus problem involving space-time relationships. Meanwhile, Rodriguez realized the maze wasn't meant to be entered physically. It was a logic puzzle requiring them to understand how the paths connected in 4-dimensional space. By thinking beyond traditional 3-dimensional limitations, she began to trace the correct route. Bailey listened to the musical patterns and noticed something the others had missed. "It's not just music," he announced. "It's a language. The tones are forming words." By working together, combining their different perspectives and skills, the 3 humans solved all 3 puzzles simultaneously. The alien audience stirred with what might have been approval. "Intelligence proven," the voice announced. "The second trial begins now." The arena transformed into a bustling alien marketplace. Crowds of beings moved between stalls selling exotic goods and strange foods. In the center of the market, they saw a small creature, clearly injured and crying out in distress. Several alien species walked past the injured being without stopping. Others actively avoided it, crossing to the other side of the market. The test of compassion, Rodriguez realized. We're being evaluated on how we respond to suffering. Without hesitation, Webb moved toward the injured creature. It was unlike anything in Earth's taxonomy, part plant, part animal, with bioluminescent patches that flickered weakly. Clear fluid leaked from wounds on its side. Bailey and Rodriguez joined him, and together they used their basic first aid knowledge to tend to the creature's injuries. The supplies they needed seemed to appear whenever they reached for them. As they worked, other beings in the marketplace began to take notice. Some approached to help, while others watched with what appeared to be curiosity. When they had stabilized the creature, several alien medics arrived to provide more advanced care. The injured being touched each human gently with an appendage that felt warm despite its plant-like appearance. Somehow, they understood this was gratitude. Compassion proven, the voice announced, and the aliens in the observation stands created sounds that might have been applause. The final trial will test your courage, the voice continued. But no, this courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of fear. The marketplace faded away, and the three humans found themselves standing at the edge of what appeared to be an enormous chasm. Across the gap, they could see a structure that pulsed with the same energy as their ship. To complete the trials and earn your species' place in the Galactic Collective, the voice explained, one of you must cross the chasm alone. The crossing itself will test every fear you possess. The chasm stretched before them like a wound in reality itself. No bottom was visible in its depths, and strange lights flickered far below like distant stars. The structure on the far side appeared to be made of the same impossible metal as their ship, but it pulsed with an energy that made their teeth ache. How are we supposed to cross that? Bailey asked, peering over the edge. It must be a kilometer wide. As if responding to his question, a narrow bridge began to materialize across the gap. But this wasn't a solid structure. It appeared to be made of pure light, translucent and wavering like heat shimmer. The voice spoke again. The bridge of truth appears only for one who faces their deepest fears. Each step forward will confront you with what you fear most. Turn back, and the bridge dissolves. Press on despite terror, and you may reach the other side. Webb, Rodriguez, and Bailey looked at each other through their helmet visors. This was unlike the previous trials where they could work together. One of them would have to face this alone. I'll go, Webb said immediately. I discovered the ship. This is my responsibility. No, Rodriguez countered. I'm the mission commander. It should be me. Bailey stepped forward. With respect to both of you, I'm the one with combat training. If there's danger on the other side, I'm best equipped to handle it. They argued for several minutes while the alien audience watched silently. Finally, Rodriguez made the decision. We'll draw lots, she announced, pulling 3 colored markers from her equipment pack. The lot fell to Webb. As he approached the bridge, his hands were shaking despite his efforts to remain calm. The first step onto the light bridge felt solid enough, though he could see straight through it to the abyss below. After 5 steps, the fear began. Webb found himself standing not on the bridge, but in his childhood home during the fire that had claimed his parents. The smoke was choking, the heat unbearable. He was 8 years old again, frozen with terror as flames consumed everything he loved. But he wasn't 8 anymore. He forced himself to remember that this was an illusion, part of the trial. With tremendous effort, he stepped forward, and the burning house faded away. The next fear was more recent. He stood in the University Review Board meeting, where his colleagues had ridiculed his theories about ancient alien visitations to Earth. Their laughter echoed around him, their faces twisted with contempt and mockery. "Your work is pseudoscience, Webb," the department head said. "You're a disgrace to legitimate research." The words hurt just as much as they had 5 years ago. But Webb understood now that this fear, the fear of professional rejection and ridicule, had been holding him back. He stepped forward again. The bridge wavered beneath his feet, and suddenly he was floating in space, his oxygen supply running out, his suit failing. This was his newest fear, born during their lunar missions. A terror of dying alone in the void, forgotten and insignificant. His heart pounded, and his breathing became rapid and shallow. The rational part of his mind knew this was illusion, but his body responded to the terror as if it were real. Stars wheeled around him as he tumbled. Through emptiness, Earth a distant speck. "Keep going," he heard Rodriguez's voice faintly, as if from very far away. "You're almost there." Webb couldn't see the bridge anymore. Couldn't see anything but endless space and his impending death. But he remembered the lesson from the voice. Courage wasn't the absence of fear, but action despite fear. He reached out with his foot, feeling for the next step. The bridge was still there, invisible but solid. He took another step, then another. The space terror faded, replaced by his ultimate fear, the fear that humanity was alone in the universe, that consciousness was a cosmic accident, that life had no greater meaning or purpose. This fear had driven his entire career, his desperate search for proof that intelligence existed beyond Earth. Now, surrounded by evidence of a vast galactic community, the fear seemed absurd. But it had shaped him, motivated him, led him to this moment. He embraced the fear instead of fighting it, understanding that it had made him who he was. With that acceptance, he took the final steps across the bridge. Webb found himself standing in a chamber filled with swirling energy patterns. In its center sat a figure that appeared almost human, but taller and more luminous, as if made of condensed starlight. "Courage proven," the being said, speaking aloud for the first time. "Your species shows the 3 essential qualities. But one final choice remains." Asterisk, the luminous being gestured, and the chamber's walls became transparent, revealing a view that took Webb's breath away. He could see across vast distances of space, observing thousands of worlds inhabited by countless species, all connected by streams of light that pulsed with information and energy. "Behold the Galactic Collective," the being said. 10,000 species working together, sharing knowledge, protecting one another, exploring the deepest mysteries of existence. Webb watched ships traveling between star systems, not through conventional space travel, but by following the light streams that connected inhabited worlds. On planets, he observed, different species worked side by side on projects of impossible scope and beauty. "This is what humanity can join," the being continued. "But the choice comes with consequences you must understand." The view shifted, showing Earth as Webb remembered it. He could see the lunar bases, the space stations orbiting his home planet, the cities sprawling across familiar continents. "Your species stands at a crossroads," the being explained. "You have developed beyond the point where you can remain isolated, but you have not yet reached the maturity required for full integration into the collective." Webb found his voice. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means you must choose between 3 paths," the being replied, raising a hand that seemed to contain miniature galaxies. "First, return to your timeline unchanged. Forget this encounter ever happened. Humanity continues its current development, eventually joining the collective naturally in approximately 300 of your years." The chamber showed images of humanity's future slow colonization of nearby star systems, gradual technological advancement, eventual contact with other species on humanity's own terms. Asterisk second, join the collective immediately. Your species gains access to all our technology, knowledge, and wisdom. Humanity leaps forward by millennia in a single generation. New images appeared Earth transformed by alien technology, humans working alongside impossible alien intelligences. Diseases and aging eliminated, energy problems solved forever. And the third option? Webb asked, though he suspected he wouldn't like the answer. Third, reject the collective entirely. Your timeline becomes permanently isolated from ours. Humanity develops alone, for better or worse, never again having the opportunity to join the galactic community. Webb considered the options while watching the images cycle through possible futures. Each choice carried profound implications, not just for him, but for every human who would ever live. "There's something you're not telling me," he said finally. "What's the catch with immediate membership?" The being's luminous features shifted in what might have been approval. Perceptive. "The catch, as you put it, is this. Immediate advancement would fundamentally change what it means to be human. Your species would gain vast power and knowledge, but lose the struggle and growth that comes from earning these things naturally." More images flowed around them, humans who looked like gods but had lost their essential humanity. Beings of vast intelligence who had forgotten how to feel wonder. Immortal creatures who no longer valued life because death held no meaning. "Many species have chosen immediate advancement," the being continued. "Few have regretted it initially, but over time they discover they have traded their souls for power." Webb thought of Rodriguez and Bailey waiting on the other side of the chasm, of the billions of humans back on Earth who would be affected by his decision. The weight of responsibility was crushing. "Can I consult with my colleagues?" he asked. "No. This choice must be made by the one who completed the trials, free from outside influence. It is the final test of wisdom to choose not just what humanity wants, but what humanity needs." Webb closed his eyes and thought about human history, the struggles, the failures, the gradual progress toward something better. He thought about children born in poverty who became great scientists, about civilizations that collapsed and rebuilt themselves stronger, about the messy, chaotic, beautiful process of human growth. He opened his eyes and looked at the being. "I choose the first option. Humanity returns to its natural timeline, unchanged but unafraid. We'll join the collective when we're ready, when we've earned our place through our own efforts." The being smiled at least. Webb thought it was a smile, wisdom beyond your years. "This is why your species was chosen for early evaluation. You understand that the journey is often more valuable than the destination." The chamber began to fade around them. "Your colleagues are being returned to your lunar base, with no memory of these events. But you, as the one who made the choice, will remember. Consider it a gift and a burden." "Will I ever see you again?" Webb asked as everything dissolved into light. "When humanity is ready," the being replied, "we will be waiting." Webb found himself standing on the lunar surface exactly where the excavation had begun, but the alien ship was gone. In its place lay only the familiar gray regolith of the moon, undisturbed, as if it had never been excavated at all. His chronometer showed that only 3 hours had passed since he'd first detected the anomalous readings. Rodriguez and Bailey stood nearby, examining their instruments with confused expressions. "That's strange," Rodriguez said into her com. "I'm getting readings that suggest we excavated here, but there's no evidence of any digging." Bailey kicked at the lunar dust. "My equipment shows the same thing. Like we've been working here for days, but—" He gestured at the untouched surface. Webb realized they remembered the excavation, but not the ship itself. The being had been precise in what memories to remove. "Maybe our instruments malfunctioned," Webb suggested, though every word felt like a lie. "We should head back to base and run diagnostics." Over the following weeks, Webb struggled with the knowledge he alone possessed. He watched his colleagues continue their research, observed humanity's gradual expansion into space, and kept silent. About the incredible truth that burned inside him, months passed. Webb threw himself into his work with renewed purpose, understanding now that humanity's natural development was precious beyond measure. Every discovery, every breakthrough, every small step forward carried weight he had never appreciated before. Began to notice things he had missed before, the way human creativity flourished under constraints, how adversity brought out both the worst and best in people, how the struggle for knowledge made each victory meaningful. One evening, while reviewing data from a Mars expedition, Webb detected something familiar in the spectral analysis of Martian rocks. The same unusual energy signature he had found on the Moon appeared briefly in the readings before vanishing. He realized the collective was still watching, still testing, still waiting for humanity to be ready. Webb made a decision that would define the rest of his career. He began subtly guiding human space exploration toward discoveries that would prepare his species for eventual contact, not by giving them alien technology, but by encouraging the kind of thinking that would help them understand it when the time came. He published papers on xenorchaeology that most colleagues dismissed as theoretical speculation. He pushed for funding for deep space monitoring projects that seemed to have no practical application. He trained a new generation of scientists to think beyond Earth-centric assumptions. Years passed. Webb aged, but his secret gave him a patience his colleagues found remarkable. He watched humanity take its first tentative steps toward interstellar travel, develop more sophisticated scanning technologies, and begin to ask the right questions about their place in the universe. The breakthrough came 15 years after. The Lunar encounter. A deep space monitoring station detected structured signals from the direction of Alpha Centauri, clearly artificial, obviously intelligent, unmistakably alien. Webb was old now, his hair white and his hands shaky, but he smiled as he read the initial reports. Humanity had found the signals on their own, through their own efforts, at exactly the moment they were ready to handle the implications. The global response was everything he had hoped for. Instead of panic or chaos, he saw curiosity and wonder. Scientists around the world collaborated to decode the messages. Governments worked together to formulate response protocols. Humanity approached this first contact with the maturity they had earned through centuries of growth. On the night, first human response was transmitted toward Alpha Centauri. Webb stood on the observation deck of Luna Base 7, looking up at the stars. The signal would take over 4 years to reach its destination, but he knew it would find a receptive audience. A familiar warmth touched his mind, and for just a moment, he saw the luminous being from the trial chamber. "Well done, the beings," voice whispered across the years. "Your species has chosen its path wisely. The real journey begins now." Webb nodded toward the stars. He wouldn't live to see humanity join the Galactic Collective, but he had played his part in ensuring they would arrive as equals, not supplicants. As he walked back toward the base, Webb reflected on the choice he had made in that distant chamber. Humanity would face challenges in the coming century's first contact protocols, cultural exchanges, technological integrations that would test every value they held dear. But they would face these challenges as themselves, having earned their knowledge through struggle and their wisdom through experience. They would join the galactic community not as subjects, but as partners. That night, Webb slept peacefully for the first time in 15 years, knowing that humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. The end asterisk.